husband's last name. Her fiancé stood stunned beside her, holding the pen meant for their marriage papers. But instead of begging for love, he silently chose revenge. She thought she'd won. But when she came back from her bridal getaway, everything was gone. And so was he. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The county records office smelled like old files and lemon disinfectant. It was one of those dull Thursdays where the lights flickered faintly overhead and the walls echoed with bureaucratic stillness. Everyone moved slow here, except for her. Across from the clerk, Natalie Shore flipped her pen between her fingers with restless precision. She hummed a little tune, off-key, under her breath. Something no one else could place. It was the kind of thing she did when she wanted to feel in control. Next to her, Gavin Reed glanced at the form again. Marriage license request. Simple enough. Signature lines, proof of ID, date of wedding. He thought he knew everything about Natalie. Thought he understood her rhythms, her nervous laughter, her boldness. But when the clerk, Clara, her name tag read, asked casually, "Will you be taking his last name?" the world turned sideways. Natalie didn't flinch. She smiled, calm and direct. "No, I'll be keeping Turner." Clara blinked. "Turner? So not your maiden name?" "Nope," Natalie said lightly, brushing a strand of her honey-brown hair behind her ear. "It's my ex-husband's." Gavin's pen stopped cold above the signature line. "Come again," he said, trying to keep his voice level. Natalie turned to him, her expression unreadable. "It's just a name, Gav. Turner is clean, symmetrical. Reed sounds, I don't know, stiff." The room fell into a thick, humming silence. "You're marrying me," Gavin said quietly, "and keeping his name. It's not personal," she said, as if it were nothing more than a wardrobe choice. "Turner just sounds better professionally. You know that. I've already built a reputation with it. Email branding, all that." Clara shuffled the papers awkwardly. Gavin didn't speak. He just sat there. The words Natalie said didn't sting because of what they were, but because of what they revealed. She had no intention of truly becoming his. She didn't want to carry his name, not in public, not in paperwork, not even at the altar. She wasn't building a life with him. She was building a business, and he was just part of the design. He signed the paper, smiled, agreed to lunch after, and something in him broke. That night, Natalie curled into him on the couch, head on his shoulder, phone in hand, scrolling through Pinterest boards of table layouts and invitation fonts. She was humming again. That same tune, off-key, maddening. She had no idea he was already undoing everything. Gavin waited until she left for her weekend wellness trip with her bridesmaids, some 4-day escape to Sedona for massages, silent yoga, and green juice. She kissed him on the cheek and whispered, "Don't miss me too much." As soon as the door clicked shut, he got to work. He opened the drawer they kept all the wedding stuff in, folders, contracts, deposits. The venue? He had signed it. The caterer? His credit card. The honeymoon? His bank account. The dress? Purchased under his name. He called the boutique first. Told them he needed to return a custom gown that hadn't been altered yet. The woman on the phone hesitated, but after scanning the transaction records, agreed. Refund issued. $6,800 back. Next, the calligrapher. Postponed indefinitely. The DJ? Canceled. The tux fitting? Gone. He read every line of every contract, found the loopholes, highlighted refund clauses. He wasn't fueled by rage. He was laser-focused, precise, like a man who'd finally stopped begging to matter. By the time Natalie finished her second yoga session in Sedona, Gavin had canceled the entire wedding, quietly, legally, and without a single text. Then came the honeymoon. They were supposed to go to Tuscany. 10 days of wine, views, and candlelight. Instead, he changed the itinerary. Same dates. New location. He chose Anchorage, Alaska. He'd always wanted to see the northern lights. And now he would alone. Then he walked in her closet, removed the dress bag, cleared out her shoes from the guest room, took her magazines, her planners, her embroidered bridal robe, and stacked them neatly on the guest bed. In the empty space where her gown once hung, he pinned a single white envelope. Inside was the receipt, and a note that read, "Turner fits your brand. Let him fund your wedding." That night, He cooked himself dinner, poured a glass of wine, and booked his ticket. He didn't tell anyone. Because real revenge doesn't need an audience. It just needs silence. Natalie's stilettos clacked lightly against the hardwood as she rolled her luggage into the entryway, cheeks sun-kissed from the Arizona sun. She was glowing, hydrated, massaged, and blissfully unaware that the house she left 4 days ago was no longer the same. "I missed you," she said as she closed the door. Her voice was airy, light, the same way she sounded after every weekend spa trip or curated retreat. She dropped her weekender bag next to the hall mirror and turned toward the living room. "Let's go over table placements tonight." Kendra had this amazing idea for a midnight floral lounge. Gavin didn't move from the kitchen counter. He simply looked at her and offered a smile. "You're about to miss a whole lot more." Natalie paused, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Go look in the guest room," Gavin said calmly, setting his coffee mug down. She squinted at him, brow furrowed, but walked briskly toward the hallway. He heard her steps slow, then stop, a beat, then another, then silence. "Gavin." Her voice had dropped several octaves. She reappeared a few moments later, envelope in hand, eyes wide with disbelief. "You returned my dress?" Gavin folded his arms across his chest, steady as stone. "I paid for it." Her mouth opened, then closed again. "Are you seriously doing this over a name?" "No," he said. "I'm doing this because I finally realized something. You're not trying to marry me. You're trying to build a brand. And I just happen to be standing in the photo." "That's not fair," she snapped. "Keeping my name doesn't mean I don't love you." "You're not keeping your name," he said, his voice sharp but quiet. "You're keeping his." Natalie inhaled as if preparing to defend herself, but no words came. She wasn't expecting this. Not the calm, not the clarity, not the readiness. "You really canceled everything?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "I did," he said, "and I got most of the money back. The venue, the caterer, the band, even the chair rentals. But," she looked around like the house itself might argue, "the invitations, the honeymoon, gone," Gavin said. Natalie staggered backward slightly, bracing herself against the wall. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she muttered. "No," Gavin replied. "I'm seeing it clearly for the first time." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. His power came from how utterly unshaken he was. "I kept my name because it's the one people know me by. My career." He raised a hand. "Then let your career marry you." Natalie's face twisted, equal parts rage and disbelief. "You're punishing me for being honest. I'm rewarding myself for finally listening." She stared at him like he was someone she didn't recognize. Because, in truth, he was no longer the man who dimmed his light to match hers. No longer the man who mistook aesthetics for love. "I build a life with you," she hissed. "No," Gavin said. "You build a Pinterest board. I just paid for it." By Tuesday, word had spread. It started in whispers, first among her bridesmaids, then through her social media followers. And Gavin said nothing. He didn't have to. Someone else leaked the truth. Probably her friend Dana or Harper, both of whom had looked uneasy during the Bachelorette planning calls. One of them sent screenshots from the group chat, the ones where Natalie had said, "Turner just feels more luxe. Reed sounds like someone who fixes air conditioners. I can't have a surname that sounds regional. It'll hurt my brand." The internet devoured it. Twitter exploded. TikTok dramatized it. Reddit dissected it. A TikTok creator reenacted Natalie's texts with music swelling in the background. It hit 900,000 views in under 12 hours. The comments? She kept her ex's name and insulted her new guy? Nah. Imagine disrespecting someone who paid for your whole wedding. She thought this was a flex. It's a red flag. By day 3, 3 of her brand sponsors pulled out. A hair care company issued a vague statement about misaligned values. A podcast quietly deleted her episode. And a boutique wellness brand she'd collaborated with posted a subtle jab on Instagram. Legacy matters. So do names. But the online backlash wasn't the worst part. It was the call Gavin got next. "Gavin," said the voice on the other end. "This is Thomas Shore, Natalie's father." Gavin sat down, his stomach tightening. He hadn't spoken to her father in months. I need to ask what happened." Gavin told him, plainly, without malice. There was a long pause. "I see," Thomas said, his voice somber. "And she really said all that?" "She did." Another pause. "I want you to know, I don't blame you. You showed her respect. She showed you branding. Gavin was silent. Thomas exhaled deeply. She wasn't raised that way. I gave her our names so she'd never forget who we are, where we come from. I guess she forgot anyway. That evening, Gavin poured himself a drink and stood on his back porch, staring into the sky. It was the first time he'd felt truly weightless in years. No planning, no packaging, no pretending, just truth. And the silence she left behind. The silence didn't last. By Friday morning, Natalie's phone was on fire. Missed calls, voicemails, emails with subject lines like urgent, brand reassessment, and need to discuss ASAP. She tried to pretend it was temporary, an algorithm glitch or some cancel culture wave that would pass. But it didn't. Screenshots from her group chat spread faster than she could delete them. Her quotes were now memes. Her name had trended, not for yoga or wellness, but for arrogance. And she knew exactly who wasn't saying a word about it. Gavin. He hadn't posted, hadn't responded, hadn't defended or attacked. He simply vanished. Worse than angry tweets or disappointed followers was the quiet dignity of his silence. It made her look small. She showed up again on Gavin's doorstep 3 days after the news exploded. This time, she looked different. No curated outfit. No perfect ponytail. Just an oversized coat, puffy eyes, and hands that wouldn't stop fidgeting. He opened the door halfway. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice tight. Gavin nodded, but didn't step aside. She took that as permission. "I was stupid," she blurted. "Everything I said. I didn't think about how it would come off. I didn't mean to hurt you." He crossed his arms. "But you did." She swallowed. "I'll drop the name. I'll change it. I'll do whatever it takes." Gavin's eyes didn't soften. "Why now? Because you wanna, or because you want people to forget?" "I want you to forgive me," she whispered. He paused, then said, "If none of this had gone public, would you be here?" Natalie didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence spoke the loudest. "I supported your dreams," Gavin said. "I believed in your work. But when I asked you to believe in something that mattered to me, you turned it into a PR decision." Her shoulders dropped. "I can fix this," she tried again. "Just give me a chance." Gavin shook his head. This wasn't a mistake. It was a mirror. You just didn't like what it showed. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. She just stood there, face to face with the truth she never expected. Gavin wasn't coming back. And for the first time, she understood. Some losses aren't loud. Some men don't slam doors. They just leave quietly and never look over their shoulder. Natalie didn't speak to Gavin again after that. Not in person. Not by text. Not even through mutual friends. She tried once. A long, emotional email filled with half-truths and bruised apologies, ending with, "I miss you more than my reputation." But Gavin never responded. He didn't even open it. Her read receipt stayed stuck at sent, so she turned inward. But the world wouldn't let her move on quietly. The TikTok video, it passed 3 million views. Commentators on YouTube started using her name in titles. "When keeping the ex's name goes wrong." The wellness influencer who lost everything over one word. Each one chipped away at the polished identity she'd built. She tried pivoting, posting a vague caption about learning, healing, and unlearning harmful biases, but it backfired. Her followers called it out. "You learned after the wedding was canceled?" Funny how self-awareness only showed up after the refunds did. The final blow came from someone she never expected. Her ex-husband, Ethan Turner. A quiet man, rarely online, never involved in drama. He posted one sentence on his private profile, later screenshotted by a mutual friend. "I asked her to stop using my name 3 years ago." That was it. No hashtags. No callouts. Just one sentence that turned Natalie's narrative into dust. She hadn't just disrespected Gavin. She'd ignored the man whose name she clung to for clout. And he didn't want it on her either. Her brand partnerships disappeared overnight. Her agent stopped returning calls. And the woman who once planned her dream wedding down to the font of the menu couldn't even get a response from a candle company that once begged for her endorsement. Meanwhile, Gavin, he was on the plane to Alaska. Window seat. Peaceful skies. No Wi-Fi. For the first time in years, he didn't care about algorithms, perception, or appearances. He watched the clouds below him and felt light. The hotel in Anchorage was modest but warm. He didn't do anything extravagant. He didn't post pictures. He didn't try to find himself. He just was. He went dog sledding. sat in silence under the aurora borealis, hiked without music, ate alone without discomfort. He wasn't recovering from her. He was remembering himself. One night, at a quiet cafe near his lodge, he struck up a conversation with a woman named Leah Monroe, a travel writer from Portland with a worn-out backpack and a head full of poetry. She didn't ask about his last name. She didn't ask for his Instagram. She just asked if he liked lemon in his tea. They talked for hours, books, childhood, places that hurt, and places that healed. He didn't tell her everything, but he didn't need to, because she wasn't judging his silence. She was listening to it. Back home, Gavin didn't brag or gloat. He didn't need to. The people who mattered understood, and those who didn't deserve his time. Natalie faded from headlines, but her silence felt different now. Not curated, not intentional, just empty. And Gavin Reed? He kept his name, because it wasn't just a name. It was a reminder of who he was before her, and who he became after. 6 months passed. The air was different now. Lighter, quieter, like the silence that settles after a storm, not because the world forgot, but because the damage had already been counted, and everyone had moved on. Natalie tried to rebuild. She launched a rebranded coaching platform called Inner Rebirth, dropped Turner from her bio, and attempted a soft pivot to advocacy through self-awareness. But the internet didn't forget. Brands didn't bite. The audience had seen behind the curtain, and no amount of staged sunrise meditations could undo the feeling that she only changed when she got caught. She wasn't canceled. She was revealed. She still posted filtered smiles, still captioned selfies with quotes from Audre Lorde and Rumi, but no one engaged like before. No partnerships, no invites, no podcast guest appearances, just echoes. The wedding venue she once dreamed of booked up a year in advance. Gavin heard through the grapevine that a different couple, high school sweethearts, had reserved it for the fall. He smiled. Good for them. His own days felt full again, not crowded, just full. With breath. With realness. He didn't rush anything with Leah Monroe. They met up twice in Boston after Alaska. Then again for a weekend road trip through Vermont. No plans, no pictures, just winding roads, truck stop coffee, and long conversations about the things they thought they had lost and the ones they never wanted again. Leah was soft-spoken, but not weak. Curious, but not performative. She didn't ask him about Natalie. She didn't flinch when he told her anyway. She just listened and said, "That must have hurt like hell." And he nodded, because it did. One day, Gavin got a letter. A real one. From Natalie. No fancy handwriting. Just a shaky script and a return address he didn't recognize. Inside was a single page. "I'm sorry. Not just for what I said, but for not seeing you clearly. I thought success looked like shine and sleekness. I didn't know that the brightest things don't always reflect. Sometimes they stand still. You stood still, Gavin, and I looked away. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want to say you deserve better." He folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Not out of bitterness, but because the apology wasn't for him. It was for her. Later that week, Gavin visited his parents' house. His father handed him a dusty box from the attic, old family records, photographs, yellowed certificates, and even a hand-carved sign that read The Reeds, Ist 1934. That night, Gavin sat on his porch holding that sign in his lap. It wasn't made of polished marble or gilded steel. It was old wood, slightly chipped, letters carved by hand, but it felt real. It felt earned. And that name, Reed, wasn't just a label. It was a lineage, something not meant to be judged by how it looked on a LinkedIn header or RSVP card, but by how it was carried, with pride, with grit, with love. In the end, Natalie chased perfection. Gavin chose peace. She built a life based on optics. He walked away and finally saw clearly, because love without respect is just performance. And no one ever clapped for a show that left the star forgotten.